Welcome, everyone, to the town hall for distance learning for the Archway schools for second semester. I'm Leanne Fawcett, and I'm the executive director for the Archway schools here in Arizona. And I'm joined today by Samantha McAnally, and she is going to be the director for our distance learning program. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the curriculum and about the instruction that will be happening this semester, some of our learning expectations, and some general questions that you might have about distance learning. And I'm sure one of the first questions that you might have is, why did we change the program? Why make changes now? And I think that probably the main reason why we made the changes that we did was a response to our teachers and to our faculty. They were really feeling the stress and the burnout from trying to teach distance learners and in-person learners at the same time. We did a survey of our teachers, and we noted that what was stressing them out the most was the time that they were trying to spend teaching distance learners at the same time as they were teaching their in-person learners, the time that it spent them to create different lesson plans, to also to set up all of the live streaming, to try to maintain the connection between the students that were online while still maintaining a connection to the students that were in front of them, that were in the classroom. And many of them were telling us that they really just didn't feel like they were doing well by either group of students. They felt like they were shortchanging both groups of students, and especially their distance learners. And we knew that we could do this in a better way. And so we set out to find a better way to do this in a way that wouldn't break the bank, in a way that our budget could maintain. And this was how we chose to do it. We decided that we really need one teacher that would be solely committed to just the distance learners for the grade level. One or two teachers for each grade level that would be just devoted solely and completely to just distance learners. And at some of our schools, we had enough students where they could take one teacher and devote them to just the distance learners. That happened at Lincoln, and that happened at Scottsdale, and that happened at most of the grades at Maryvale as well. But at others of our schools, we didn't have enough distance learners where they could dedicate a teacher solely and entirely to the distance learners. So we thought, let's put together the distance learners from different academies and let's teach them together. And so that's what we've done. And in some cases, we have a teacher that has been borrowed from one of our academies and has been replaced with a substitute at that academy. That teacher is going to teach students from her academy or his academy and students from a couple other academies. And in other cases, we've hired teachers that used to teach for us and have moved away or have decided to stay home with their children, and they've decided to come back and do this really great thing for us and teach your students and from their living rooms and do this wonderful thing called teaching distance learners. And they're very excited to be here. And in a couple cases, we've hired former teachers that, although they're new to Great Hearts, they're not new to teaching, and they're super excited to be part of the Great Hearts family, and they're fully supported by the other teacher that is teaching alongside them and by the TA that's working with them. Through this, we believe that we really will support your students in a much better way with actually more synchronous learning than they've had before and more attention from the teacher. So right now what we have is about somewhere between 120 to 150 students at each grade level. And we have two teachers devoted to each grade level to those students. So that works out to around 60 to 70, 80 students per teacher. And so they divided them up into two groups, and each teacher is serving two sections of students. So they'll have one one section of students that they'll have synchronous sessions with and another section. So your class will be about 30 to 45 students large. So now I'm going to turn it over to Director McAnally, who's going to tell us a little bit more about what that instruction might look like and what the curriculum will look like. Sam?
Thank you, Leanne. And parents, thank you so much for attending this town hall to get more information about distance learning. The teachers and I are very excited to partner with you to ensure that your child has a successful second semester. The synchronous instruction that you can expect varies per grade level. Our kindergartners will receive around 1 hour of live instruction a day, and with each grade level, that instruction will increase by about 15 minutes. And so then our fifth graders will be receiving around 2 hours of synchronous instruction each day. Now, the teachers have sent out their schedules to you, or they will be going over those schedules at Meet the Teacher. And these sessions may be consecutive. The teacher might have decided to do these sessions in blocks, or the teachers may have decided to break the sessions up into the subjects. So be sure to look at those times and reach out to your teacher if you have any questions about that schedule. The teachers are planning all of the core subjects for your children. This will include ELA. With Spalding, they'll still continue to practice the phonograms and their spelling and their handwriting. In literature, the students will be reading the same books that they would be reading at their academy. We read all of the same literature books across the network at the academies. And the only difference is some of the schools read the books at different times. Some of them read them in semester 1, some of them might read them in semester 2. And this potentially could mean that your child might reread a book that he or she read in the first semester. But we look at this as a beautiful thing, and we look at this as a great opportunity, because when your child is rereading the text, rereading the story, they will notice things that they didn't notice the first time that they read it, and the dialogue that they have with their new teacher and their new peers might bring a different perspective to the story. And that is how we've come to love our favorite books, because we have most likely read them more than one time, and we fell in love with them more each time that we read them. So your teacher will be sending out specifically what your class will be reading for semester 2, and we'll be communicating that with you. The students will also continue with their grammar and writing curriculum. The benchmarks are the same per grade level. The students will be writing sentences, they'll be writing paragraphs. In the older grades, they'll be writing essays, and they'll continue with the curriculum that they're using at the academies. The math curriculum that we'll be using is Singapore math. However, it will be different from what your child was using at his or her academy. It is still a version of Singapore math, but it is called Dimensions Math, and we're very excited because it is all completely digital, and it aligns with our Common Core Singapore math that many of our schools use. And so we'll be speaking a little bit more about what that Dimensions Math will look like in future slides. The students will continue to receive history and science lessons. Some of these lessons may be asynchronous and sprinkled throughout the week. So your child might be assigned some readings on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday and about an historical event or about a science topic. And then on Fridays, the teachers will have live instruction for history and science. And this might look like reading about a historical figure or event and having a Socratic discussion, or they might complete a science experiment together and dive in and explore that. And so your teacher will be communicating supplies that they'll need for those science experiments earlier on in the week so that your child can jump in and join in on that learning in that fashion. But same curriculum that they are using at all of the academies. We are also offering specials we're offering specifically art, music, and PE. There will not be a foreign language in the distance learning program. And we will have one asynchronous video per week per special for the students to participate in. Now, these specials are optional, and this is in addition to, I know, all of the other things that they are focused on in learning, but we do really encourage you to have your child participate in these, as it makes for a well-rounded education and a great learning experience, even online. And in addition to the core subjects and the synchronous time that your child will be learning with their peers, we will also be having reading groups. In kindergarten through second grade, these groups will consist of 4 to 7 students, and they'll meet 1 to 2 times a week. And these groups will be established based on the students' reading levels. So they'll be grouped based on their capabilities, and the teachers will still continue to monitor them and to allow them to progress based on their reading abilities. The third through fifth grade groups will also meet 1 to 2 times a week, and they'll have small groups, but this is going to be prioritized for our struggling readers that really need to get more teacher attention with their fluency, with comprehension, and they just need a little bit more attention in that area. However, all of the students will continue with their assigned independent reading, whether that was through Reading A to Z or RAS, and the teachers will be assigning independent reading with different platforms throughout the week. And just like they would in the classroom, the teachers are also going to be calling on the students to read out loud during their literature session or during their history session. So they'll get a lot of practice with those reading skills. Because all of our academies have different materials, some have different workbooks, some we're providing packets to the families, we've decided that the teachers are going to have all of their curriculum on the computer. So everything is at their hands and ready to go. So the students are not going to need their math textbooks or their workbooks that they were going to be using for their academy, because with Dimensions Math, the textbooks and workbooks are all digital, and the teacher can post these assignments on Google Classroom, and it is very easy to use. So that'll make things much easier for the teachers in regard to planning, but also for the students to complete their assignments. We are doing this also to limit the amount of printing that will be expected of you. Now, some assignments may require printing. It depends on what the teachers have assigned and what they've created. But the printing will not be required. If you need to, your child can write the answers on a separate piece of paper, and then we'll be able to upload that or show the teacher to make sure that the teacher knows they understood the content. We do ask that your child does have their Spalding book and writing paper and a pencil, because they will continue to practice writing their numbers and their letters. And so that is a skill that we definitely need them to make sure that they keep on doing. As far as learning expectations in the distance learning classrooms, we are going to be modeling the classroom experience as much as possible in the virtual method. So attendance during the synchronous sessions is required. Your child must be present for the entirety of the Zoom session in order to be marked present by his or her teacher. And because this is their profession, and because we want them to take ownership over their learning, their uniforms are mandatory. The students should be wearing their uniforms of their respective academy. And this will also include brushing their hair, brushing their teeth. It's up to you if they put on their shoes, but we want them to be ready for the day and ready for their learning. The students must also be sitting at a table or a desk and in an environment where there are minimal distractions, as minimal as possible. We understand that they're at home, you might have siblings, but creating a space for your child to focus on their learning and making it the optimal experience is preferred. And the students should be using their first and last name only for their Zoom name. This is so that their teachers can identify them and accept them into the session. And it's also so that it doesn't distract the other learners when they're seeing all the names, and they can get to know each other when they see the names and the faces on the Zoom session. In order to leave the Zoom session, the student will need to ask for permission, whether this is raising their hand with the button on Zoom, or if they physically raise their hand to get the attention of the TA to ask if they can either run to the restroom, or if they have an urgent reason to leave the session, they'll ask for permission. We do ask that they use the restroom during the assigned break times, just so that they don't miss any learning opportunities. We also want to ask the parents to allow the students the opportunity to learn independence as they are in these sessions, just as they would in the classroom. When your child's in the classroom and they're listening to the teacher and their instruction, they don't have you sitting next to them or in the room next to them to answer any questions that they might have. And so we want these students to be advocates of their learning. And so encourage your child to ask questions when he or she doesn't understand something, and please give them the opportunity to attend these sessions on their own. Now, if you need to help them with any technical issues like signing on to Zoom or getting access to their math books, that's obviously appropriate, but we do want them to take this on independently as much as possible. And with the exception of specials, all of the coursework that the teachers assign is going to be required. They are only assigning the activities or the tasks that are going to help your child practice the skill. And all of the assignments that they're giving are purposeful. However, not all of this practice work is going to be graded. Sometimes the teachers might collect the assignments for completion. They might go over the answers as a class. They might check for understanding in different ways during the class so that they know that the students have comprehended the material. But the students should make sure that they are completing quality work with every assignment that they do in the program. All tests and quizzes will be graded, obviously, and some of their practice work will contribute toward their final grade. However, they have twice as many students, and so we will not be having them grade every single assignment as they would at the academy level, but they're doing everything that they can to make sure that they know that your child is understanding everything that they are presenting. As in the typical classroom, disciplinary problems are they do occur, and we like to put the ownership of a student's behavior onto them. And so just as we would at the academies, we would have the students work with the TAs to solve a problem that they might be creating in the classroom. In the distance learning program, this might look like the TA reaching out either through the chat or in a breakout group with the student to talk about the behavior and come up with a successful plan to fix the behavior. If for some reason the behavior continues, then the lead teacher will be in contact with the parent and with the student regarding the behavior and come together to hopefully create a plan for successful learning. If the behavior still continues, then I will become involved and I'll have a meeting with the student and or the parent, and we will all work together to help your child fix the behavior. And as you all know, it's a team effort, and so we're all joining in to make sure that the classroom environment is as conducive for learning as possible.
All right, thank you, Sam. And now we're going to just go over a few questions that you may have. One of them might be, can we change our mind once the semester has started? Can we move back to brick and mortar? Or will other people be able to change their minds and move from brick and mortar into our child's distance learning classroom? And the answer to that is no. We won't be allowing any changes once the semester has started, and we're even not allowing changes now. Those decisions were made back in November. And the reason for that is for a couple of reasons. One is logistically that we've had to have these numbers down so that we could get the exact number of licenses that we need for the Singapore math program, so that we could hire the number of teachers that we need and get the right number of TAs that we need, as well as create the schedules that we've needed, but also for the students' sake. We want them to develop a relationship with their teachers. And we want them to be, for the teachers to get to know them. And we want them to get to know them academically and socially. We want them to be able to develop relationships with each other and with other classmates. We know that that's important for students. And so if they're switching classes and they're going in and out, we know that that's not going to happen. We know that when they switch teachers, that it's harder for them to grow academically. And so we want this to be the last switch that your kids have to experience. We want them to be with this teacher from now until the end of the semester. Now, we know that things might happen at your child's homeschool, and they might have to, there might be kids there that have to go into quarantine. A section might have to be quarantined, or a grade level might have to be quarantined, or maybe the whole school might have to shut down for a couple weeks. That's not going to affect your child's classroom. Your child will still keep going with their distance learning teacher and continue with them, and will not have other students joining them in their classroom from time to time. It will be the same group of students from now until the end of the semester. I think that we owe that to them after all this time, some stability that they need in their classes. The next question you might have would be, what might a typical day look like for our students? And I think it's going to look pretty similar to what you were used to seeing in the first semester. Your students will have some time, that synchronous time with the teacher, where the teacher's teaching them some skills and they're learning and they're interacting with the teacher. They're going to have some reading time with the teacher. While that won't be the independent time that they've had, they'll be in a group of students. They will still be reading some time with the teacher. Then they'll be having some time in all of the subject areas. And then of course, they'll have some asynchronous time when they're doing some practice and they're doing some lessons that they're doing on the computer. So that's what the typical day might look like, but you'll get a specific schedule if you haven't already from the classroom teacher, and you'll hear a lot more about that at Meet the Teacher, which will be either tomorrow or the next day, which you should have received communication from your child's teacher already about when Meet the Teacher is. What if your child's teacher has to be out for some reason? Well, we've got that covered. If the teacher has to be out, we do have other adults available that can teach the class. We've got the teaching assistant who can take over the classroom, but we've also got the other teacher for that grade level. We can always have the students join in on the other sessions that teacher is teaching, so that they can at least get the learning and the instruction from that day if the teacher happens to be absent. So we hopefully we've got that all covered for you as well. And then the next question is, what if your student is already receiving services? If they receive reading intervention from the reading interventionist at your school, or what if they receive services from the exceptional student services department, or what if they receive speech services? How is all of that going to be handled? If your student is currently receiving any of those services, they're going to continue to receive those services from your home school. So their home school is going to continue to service your student for those things. They will be reaching out to you. Your ESS coordinator or your reading interventionist will be reaching out to you with the schedule for that. In most cases, that schedule will be the same as it was in the first semester. They'll be sending you the Zoom links that you will be accessing so that you will still have that time with that interventionist. So that will continue to happen on a weekly basis or a day-to-day basis, whatever schedule you've already had set up. If your child misses their synchronous time with their distance learning teacher, they will be able to attend a different session with the distance learning teacher. So they won't have to miss any of the instruction that they would get from distance learning.
Technical issues are inevitable, especially in this time. And so we do have a plan for you if you do need technical support. The first thing that we ask for you to do is to troubleshoot first by yourself by using the guides from the Safe Return website on the distance learning resource page. I did include this in my reminder email about the town hall this morning so that you can access it easily. That would be the first step if you're having technical issues. In most cases, the teacher, the teaching assistant will be able to assist you. If he or she is not able to assist you, then they'll connect you with me, and I should be able to help you with whatever problem might be occurring. A lot of parents and teachers have been brainstorming ways that the students can stay connected with not only the peers in the DEL program, but their peers at the Academy. And so in order to establish friendships in the DL classroom, the teachers have included small group time for the students to be able to chat with one another and get to know each other on a more personal level. The teachers have also planned for some class celebrations, just as they would at your academy, where they might celebrate the end of their unit on Rome, or they might have a party to celebrate the end of their literature book that they just read. And that is an exciting thing that will continue with the DL program. The students will also have snack breaks and bathroom breaks, and these breakout times might be in breakout rooms. And we also encourage your child to join in on the session early, because then they'll have even more time to socialize. In order to keep you connected with your homeschool, we are going to make sure that you continue to receive communication through the school newsletter. So you will still continue to receive those headmaster updates each week. And you will still be invited to all of the Facebook events, including the medieval fair, or if your school has dances or whatnot, they'll still extend those invites to you and your family. We are also encouraging our distance learners to be pen pals with the learners at the campus. And this is a great way for them to explore another avenue of communication. It's a great way for them to practice their writing skills. And so the teachers will be connecting with one another to arrange for the students to have pen pals. You will be receiving communication from me each week. I will send updates about the distance learning program, anything that you might need to know. But the teachers are also going to be sending weekly updates on Google Classroom. They might use the stream. They might be posting on Monday what the week is going to look like and give you updates there. And the teachers are also going to be communicating with you through the feedback on graded assignments. In Google Classroom, you upload assignments and the teachers will look over them and send feedback to you so that you know how your child is doing progressively throughout the semester. The students will continue to have progress reports in the middle of each semester so that you are updated on their abilities and how they're doing academically. And the students will also receive evaluations at the end of each quarter, and we will be using PowerSchool just as we did at the Academies. Obviously, you're welcome to email and arrange for a phone call with myself or with the teachers. But at the Academies, we ask that you gave 24 hours for the teachers to respond. With the distance learning program, because the teachers have twice as many families to communicate with, we are extending that response time to 48 hours. Our teachers want to dedicate the time to answering your questions and concerns thoroughly, and they want to put that effort in, but they are also teaching students for several hours in the day on top of lesson planning and grading. And so we need to extend that response time. So please allow them grace in their responses with you if they don't respond within the same day. We have some fun opportunities for all of you that we hope that you will consider. As I said in a previous slide, the students will have reading groups, and at the Academies, parents would volunteer to lead these reading groups, and we will be continuing that in the distance learning program. So if you are interested in any of these volunteering opportunities, you will just need to make sure that if you're volunteering with students, that you get cleared through the Raptor system at your academy. So you will need to reach out to your academy to get cleared. And we also are looking for room moms or dads, liaisons for the class to plan social events, whether you want to coordinate for all the students to do a Zoom on the weekend to bake together, or do a social distancing event at a park somewhere nearby so that they can see each other a little bit. We are looking for parents that are willing to help in that capacity. And also, if you feel that you are particularly tech savvy, you read through your emails thoroughly, and you think that you can be a great middleman between the teacher and all of the families that the teacher will be helping, then we are looking for parents that would like to provide technical support. So then our teachers will only be communicating with one parent about a missing Zoom link, or one parent about what will be needed as far as materials for a particular lesson, and then that parent can help communicate with the rest. So let us know if you're interested in those opportunities. Other ways to support your student as he or she is in the distance learning program: it is vital that your child gets to class on time. This helps us in many ways. It helps your child in many ways. And it will not only free up our teachers so that they're not accepting students into the Zoom session for several minutes after the session has began, and they won't be able to focus on participation or the content as much, but it will make sure that your child didn't miss any of the valuable instruction. And so please make sure that your child is logging on time. And as I said before, a few minutes early so that he or she can see their peers and say hello. The next thing that you can do is provide a distraction-free learning environment. We know that this is difficult sometimes at home with those that are home with their families, but as much as possible, if your child can be in a quiet room at a desk without any siblings around playing, tempting them, then making that environment as conducive to learning as possible is something that you can help us with. And you could also help make sure that your child has the necessary materials for their learning. So this might include their Spalding books, or making sure that their e-textbooks and workbooks are already on the screen, ready to go before their math session, any way that you can help them be prepared. But the biggest thing that we ask of all of you is to give your child the gift of discovering the learning for themselves. So we need your child to try to attend these sessions independently, ask questions, and take charge of their learning just as they would in the in-person class.
Yes, Sam, sometimes that that discovering is the greatest gift that we can give to our students. When the student has that opportunity to have that aha moment. And sometimes that aha moment doesn't come without a little bit of struggle and with a little bit of thinking. And the teacher knows just the exact amount of support to give the student to get them to that place where they are going to discover something on their own. And a lot of times the worst thing that we can do is to step in and give them the answer right when they were about to get there themselves. And so we encourage parents to not steal that moment away from their kids, and just let them have that moment of struggle, so that when they have that moment of aha, it's worth even more to them. Other ways that you can support your teacher, let's just be real for a minute here. Sometimes as parents, I know sometimes myself as a parent, I would just get really frustrated sometimes at myself, sometimes at my student, and sometimes at the teacher. And sometimes in that frustration, I would furiously blast an email, and it would be a page long, and it would say everything that I ever wanted to say to that teacher. And sometimes that send button would get sent just a little bit too quickly. I want to encourage you to just let those emails sit, and not send those fiery emails that you want to send when you're really upset and you're tired and it's 10 o'clock at night and things aren't going the way you want them to go. Know that our teachers, they have goodwill towards your students. They're not trying to make your life hard. They're not trying to make you frustrated. They love your students. They're doing this because they love distance learning, and they want distance learning students to have the best that they can possibly get. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to mess up sometimes. So they're going to need some grace, and they're going to need some patience, and they're going to need some kind and encouraging words. And so I just ask of you that in those frustrating times that you maybe hold those fingers back, and don't blast out that email, until maybe, if you still feel the same way the next day, you can send out something a little less frustrating sounding, and instead send something more encouraging. Of course, if you have problems with your teacher, you can always reach out to Director McAnally or to myself. We do want to hear if you're having consistent problems with the teacher, but we also want you to have a really positive relationship with the teacher. We want to keep these teachers because they're really important to us, and and we need to keep them around for the rest of the year. And we know part of that is their morale. So we just ask of you to consider that in your communications with them. We know that majority of you, if not all of you, already keep that in mind, but we know at times that sometimes gets the best of even the best of us. And we also ask that you just limit your emails to those that are the most necessary. I know it's easy to ask the teacher really quickly for this thing or that thing. If you could do your best to ask that technical support person maybe for the answer to a question that you could maybe find also in some of the communication the teacher has sent out. Look in other places first before reaching out to the teacher. Reach out to the teacher for those academic concerns that you have for your student, and those things that are most necessary, to limit the number of emails that they're having to listen to and read. And then, of course, you can send your concerns to Director McAnally. Finally, we will have some standardized tests that our students will be taking throughout the rest of the semester. The first one will be the Galileo test. That's going to be for our 3rd through 5th grade students. Those students have already taken that test. They've already taken it twice this year. They took it in August. They took it again in November. They're going to take it again in February. This is just for 3rd through 5th grade. They take it in math and they take it in English language arts. This is a great test that helps us to just benchmark our students, helps us to know where do they need additional support, what skills do they need to help and work on, how well are they going to do and perform on our state testing. All of those things gives us really good data. The next test is our DIBELS test. Now, for most of our students, that's not going to be done until the end of the year. This is a state mandated test that all of our students have to take from kindergarten through 3rd grade. Is a reading test. Gives us great information on how well they're reading and where they are in their reading. Helps us to determine who needs that additional support in reading, and that's what puts them into reading intervention, and helps our teachers to level our students in reading. Most of our students have taken the second test for DIBELS. We have a couple schools who are taking the second test in January. Those schools are going to reach out to you to get that second test taken care of. So if your homeschool has not yet taken the second DIBELS test, they'll be reaching out to you to get that second test taken care of. And then finally, all of our 3rd through 5th grade students are required by the state to take the AZ Merit 2 series of tests. This test is replacing the AZ Merit. Last year, the federal government gave our states a waiver from assessing the students. This year, they have said they will not be giving a waiver. And so we will be required to test all of the students. And the state of Arizona has told us that we must test all of our distance learners in person. So this will be a challenge, but it's something that we can overcome. And so all of the homeschools will be reaching out to you to schedule a time for your students to come in and take the AZM2 series of tests. Now, we can't take all those tests all at one time. There's 2 reading tests, 2 math tests, a writing test, and a science test. So we'll space them out, and they'll be during April and some during May. And then your school will be letting you know when you'll be taking those tests. And they'll do that in as safe environment as we can do. All right, Sam, can you tell us a little bit about Meet the Teacher?
Yes, so your teachers should have already sent out the links for Meet the Teacher. Kindergarten through 2nd grade will be meeting on tomorrow evening, and 3rd through 5th grade will be meeting on Wednesday. One group of schools will be meeting at 5 p.m. and another group of schools will be meeting at 5:50 p.m. So take a look at your communication from your teachers to see which time you were assigned. If you need to attend another session time, that is perfectly fine. If you have a child another child that is in those respective grade levels and you need to attend the other session, that is perfectly fine. So just let your teacher know. Our first day of school is on Thursday, January 7th, and the time that your child will begin will be the time that your teacher has sent on their class schedule. And there was a great question that we received about Google Classroom. Our students will keep their same accounts. You will not need to do anything other than accept an invitation from your new teacher, and that will happen this week. So they will not be creating new accounts. And if your child does not have a device for their distance learning for semester 2, they should if they've been online for the first semester. But if they are in great need of a device and you don't have one, then you need to reach out to your academy, as that's the way that the students got their devices last semester. And so you can reach out to your school.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any further questions, we think most of them will get answered at Meet the Teacher tomorrow or the next day. But if they don't, feel free to reach out to Director McAnally or myself. Our email addresses are lfawcett@greatheartsaz.org or smcAnally@greatheartsaz.org or smcAnally@archwaychandler.org. Either one of those will take you to her. And we just reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer any additional questions that you may have after those Meet the Teacher nights occur. And if you have any friends that have missed this meeting and they want to be able to see it, this meeting was being recorded and it will be up on our Safe Return website, which they'll be able to see it there on that. So thank you again so much for attending. I hope that you have a really great second semester and that your students do really well in their distance learning. So thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you.
Bye.